going on, guys? And welcome back to the Edison Club podcast. I'm your host, Mike, joined tonight by my teammate and co-host, Austin Deckard, a.k.a. Enraged Peacock.
Yo, yo.
As well as my good friend and teammate, straight out of the Brain Research Lab, Cole Ayers.
Hello.
And joined tonight by a very special guest. This one has been a long time coming. Tonight's special guest is none other than Beast Mode. Beast Mode, what's going on, man?
What's up, everyone? Beast Mode is in the building. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. This has been one we've been working out for a while. Once again, shout outs to Enraged Peacock, the Director of Public Communications, for setting all of these up. He's done an excellent job. So tonight, I'm sorry, Enraged, go ahead.
I say, I just ask, and they say yes. It's
yeah.
Weird. I don't
yeah.
It's a secret.
You have that vibe to you. People just want to say yes to you.
We'll go with that.
So tonight we're just going to go over and talk with Beast Mode, and we'll go over just like the standard kind of questions that I always ask. And the first one that I always ask all the new guests on the show is, how did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh?
Oh, goodness. So I thought about this a little bit. I think I started back in like 2003. I was probably in junior high school. And a friend of school was like, hey, check out these cool cards. And, you know, at the time I was playing pretty much like anybody else did when they first started, just, you know, slamming someone's skull without tributing and
classic
playing cards completely ass backwards. And luckily for me, I actually took interest in the game, and there was a card shop like within walking distance. So I was able to frequent locals because it was fairly close. And I remember just grinding through most of junior high and high school was probably where I was really grinding regionals and, you know, attending YCS when I could. At one point I was like number one in the state when UDE would keep rankings for a period of time. Yeah. I was number one in the state for some time, and
wow, cool.
It was pretty cool back in pretty cool back in the day too. Trading was so different than it is now. Obviously, I'm sure some of you guys remember where like, hey, you have a Jinzo and I have an Ejection Fairy Lily, let's just trade, and that's how easy it was. So
yeah, the good old days.
Kind of like, yeah, nobody, you know, there used to be Beckett, but you'd have to have the magazine. Nobody really checked values. It was just more or less, you have what I need, and you know, and we trade. So grinded up and played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. I was more of a regional warrior. I do have quite a few not Shonen Jumps, but regional tops and Shonen Jump. I guess I have some tops, but anyway, that's my quick Yu-Gi-Oh. Back in the day, just mainly grinded locals and regionals and
okay.
That, so.
What was when was the last time that you were playing advanced format?
Oh, so I probably stopped in like, I remember Tengu format. When was that?
2011, like the end of 2011, I think.
Yeah, so I played some of that, and then I stopped for a bit. And I did show up, so I did play one regional back in 2015, 2016. It was Burning Abyss.
Okay, yeah, very cool deck.
Me the deck. Yeah, and I was like, this is like so dumb what this deck can do. So.
Yeah, like
so I played a regional, which I did top, of course.
That's like, in my opinion, that's like the last great Yu-Gi-Oh format, at least for me. Like the Burning Abyss, Cleafort, Nekroz, Shadal, like that was a good time for Yu-Gi-Oh before things just got super, super insane.
Yeah, I didn't play anything after. I literally played that one regional. I was like, yeah, this game is like really passing me by. You could just kind of tell. I never got into like, I heard Dragon Rulers was great, but I never really, well, at that time I was in studies and like I was kind of beginning life, but every now and then I always had this itch to come back, and I'm just like, first off, I can't even read the cards.
Yeah, too much text. Way too much text.
There's just no way it's happening at this point.
It's been trying to like suck me back in lately because of the new Blue Eyes deck that just came out. And you really only need like 3 structure decks and like just a few random cards to actually have a complete deck. And I'm like, nah, man, like if I go back to that, there's no turning back. I can't do it. Also too much text.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I remember at one point, I don't know if it was one of your streams or if it was something we were talking about, but I know that you said that you had a feature match one time and like you pulled up a feature match. What era was that where you had like your Konami or maybe even like the metagame? Because I think it was like SJC era, maybe even.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I didn't really elaborate like back. So I know like Edison credentials is like far different than I'm far better player than I was back in the day. But I was pretty good player back then. Like I said, I was more of like regional warrior. I top 8. Now when I say regional tops, I know some of the old school players remember like you used to have to top 8 a
It was
regional and then
hard.
top 4 to get
Yes.
an invite. Like it was legit. Like when you had a top 8 play mat, like people knew you could play.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I call a top. I know nowadays like if
And
you
that
pretty much
invite,
sign up to the regional, you get an invite. Like
yeah, and that's invite was an actual like credential. You would like put
Yeah.
on like, your username and stuff. You're like, I qualified for Nats in 06,
Absolutely.
07.
Absolutely.
It was a big deal. It was only top 4 unless someone in top 4 had a invite, and
It
then
would
that
get
invite
passed
was passed
down.
down. Yes.
Yep.
Now you
It
can go
was-
X3 and get an invite. It's like that's
It was so hard. So
yeah,
hard.
it was very cutthroat.
So I don't know. I topped a top 8 a lot of regionals. And YCS, I think I got 14th at SJC Boston. I had a feature match there against Jonathan Labani. That's on the metagame site.
That's what it was.
And I also went undefeated with Crystal Beast at 2006 Nationals. I think I was like 6-0.
That's
Oh my
crazy.
7-0. I didn't actually. I lost last round to Thierstack Poomsbat, I think is his name, the one who made T Hero.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually top because it used to be really hard to top. Like they didn't have top 32 or whatever back then. So I think I finished like 7-2 at Nat. So there is a feature match with me playing. I think it was Ego Flores with Crystal Beast.
That's insane. I have to go read that.
Yeah.
Crystal Beast is like one of
Yeah.
my favorite archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh.
It was troop dupe scoop format, and I was killing and OTKing people with Crystal Abundance.
Yes, classic. I love it. I love that. Very cool. Okay, Enraged, do you have any questions prepared for Beast Mode here?
Well, before we get into all the actual meat and potatoes of it, today is National Pokemon Day, so we gotta ask the obligatory: what is your favorite Pokemon?
Oh yeah, true.
So I didn't know this was a national day, but it's always Bulbasaur 100%
Oh,
every
yeah.
time. I always run through any game with Bulbasaur, so
Solid choice.
yes.
In-
Original 151.
Yep, mine's Raichu. So
There you go. Perfect.
Raichu's cool.
No super particular reason, just I like him. He's cool.
Once they made a trash bag and an ice cream cone, I was all set.
Yeah,
Original
yeah.
151's where it's at.
It's always embarrassing, but like I never watched or played Pokemon at all as a kid. I guess I was just so into Yu-Gi-Oh! That's like where that time went. But my favorite Pokemon is Gloom. I just think he's cute. That's the only reason.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's the one that drools, right?
I
Yeah.
was the same. Yeah.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
solid choice.
Yeah. Cole, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Mine's Gen 2. It's Tyranitar.
Yeah. he got
Oh, okay. I do know that one. That was still good. That was like what, the next 150 or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johto.
Yeah,
I played
that-
so much Gen 2. It was almost like Gen 1 to me.
Yeah.
That was like silver and gold version, right?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I played so
that's
much
solid.
Silver.
Solid games.
I was little. I remember playing. I got the Game Boy Advance SP, and it was a big deal because it had a backlight, so you could actually like
Oh, yeah.
play
You
it
can
in the
actually
car.
see.
And I was like, whoa. And that was Gen 3. I had a Ruby, and then later on I got Emerald. And Emerald is still to this day my favorite Pokemon game I've ever played. But the older generations are definitely more like it hits that nostalgia feel. It's just everything about that time. Just it was the late 90s, early 2000s. Just peak.
I'll tell you.
I've heard that those games don't work anymore. So they're starting to not work because the batteries are dying in them. Now.
Ooh.
Yeah, the original and silver and gold versions, like the battery that are inside of them, I guess, are running out from what I've heard, and that like everybody's losing their save data and all that.
Dang.
That's a
We used to be
sad story.
country.
I'll tell you a funny story that relates to Pokemon really quickly here. So like I said, I never really watched Pokemon, never played the games. About a year ago, I had a VHS tape, and this VHS tape.
Because that is just still so wild though. Mike. Like
I know.
like
I know.
that is still takes every time you say it like is jarring. I'm like, sorry to interrupt. I'm like, what the hell? That's crazy.
I know. I'm such a fake nerd, honestly. But I had a VHS tape, and on this tape was a segment of my grandpa that got featured on the news where he like caught like a lot of large fish. So he got featured on the news. So I taped it when I was a kid, and I hadn't watched the tape in like 15 years. So I find it, and no one has a VHS player anymore. Like you can't, they don't exist. So I take it to Walmart and get it digitized, and they tell me all about the process. They charge so much for like how much media is on it. And I tell them it's like a news segment, it's like less than 5 minutes long. So they give me a quote, and it's like $8. I'm like, great. Well, 3 weeks happens. It comes back. I go to pick it up. it's $76. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, what? I mean, I've already done it now. Like, they won't give me my tape back if I don't pay for it, so I pay for it. And I go home and I watch it. And I guess when I was a kid, I didn't hit stop on the VCR. So, so after the news thing, it's just 2 hours of Pokemon
Nice.
on this whole thing. I couldn't even believe that they were able to digitize that. Like, I figured it would be something with like copyright or something, but yeah. So I have that digitized DVD of my grandpa and also a 2-hour long Pokemon movie. So
Nice.
it's
Nice.
always
That's incredible.
funny to tell people that. All right, Enraged, go ahead. Hit him with a question.
I'll say that was mine. If you want to have Cole ask something
okay.
too, you can
Yeah.
go next.
Cole, go right ahead.
It's a little unrelated, but I've always wondered, you have like the Hulk as your profile picture, and so like, are you just like really big into like Marvel stuff, or just Hulk in general?
Yeah, so Hulk is like my favorite Marvel character, of course. I just kind of like the whole thought and story behind his, getting angry, turning green, and this big guy. I am not a big person myself. Actually, I'm quite skinny and scrawny, so it's kind of funny and a little ironic, I guess. But yeah, I just like the Marvel universe. I don't know who doesn't really like Marvel universe, but
That's true.
Hulk is definitely the man. I think so.
Yeah, he's actually my favorite Marvel character too. Is why the reason why I asked.
I like the purple and green color too. I like that combination. So
Yeah, I used to watch the I think maybe it was in the '80s with Lou Ferrigno. I used to watch that when I was a kid growing
Oh,
up.
I used to watch
Oh,
that
wow.
too, dude.
Actually,
I love
that's
it.
like before my. That's a little bit before. Might be a little bit before my. I don't remember watching any of that. I do know of him, but yeah.
Well, I think
I remember the
my
really
uncle had it on
crappy
like
Hulk from the
DVD.
'90s.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to like a Comic-Con and saw him, Cole?
Mm-mm.
Lou Ferrigno. That guy, he looks like the Hulk, even still. That guy is giant. I met Henry Winkler, the Fonz from Happy Days in 2018
Oh,
in
yeah.
Raleigh SuperCon. And so I also went around and like talked to some other people. And Lou Ferrigno was one of them. And he stood up and I was like, oh my God. No wonder they got this guy to play the Hulk. This guy's huge. He still looks like
There's
the
no
Hulk.
CGI.
Yeah, no
Sorry about
CGI. They just
Painted him.
just painted him green, called it a day.
That's it. That's
I
great.
think he's bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger because they were in like that movie together. Was it Pumping Iron? That series where they
Oh,
were like
yeah.
bodybuilding and all that.
Yeah, I
Both
have heard of
huge.
that.
Both were huge.
Okay. So I guess the next question is going to be, how did you become the godly zombie player of Edison format?
Oh, jeez. Hardly. I'm probably average at best. It's actually, yeah, that's a great story. So, I actually had come back into, well, maybe I should start off with, do we care how I got into Edison?
Yeah, let's start there. How did you get into Edison
Well,
format?
The thing I said where we can start with how we each first heard of Beast Mode, and then he can say how he got into Edison and kind of follow that trail. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You guys might not even know who I am, but sure.
I mean, everyone knows who you are. If they play competitively, they know who you are. But if they're new and they don't know who you are, they'll be able to learn.
That's true. I can't remember exactly where I heard of Beast Mode for the first time. I think I stumbled upon maybe one of his videos, commented on some videos, and eventually he showed up in one of the live streams I did for a tournament. Was just always real supportive.
I try to support everybody. I'm
Yeah.
a big believer of that.
I really appreciate that. How
I
about
remember very vividly how I met Beast Mode.
let's hear.
Because back in the days where before we had the Edison ranked section on DB, you would just go into unlimited rated and you would type Edison format.
Yep.
And you would that's how you would test. And I thought I was recently had been playing a lot of GOAT, and I made it to like number 2 on the GOAT rank ladder. So I thought I was hot shit. And I'm like, well, I'm going to start playing some Edison now, and let's see what I can do with this.
Yeah.
And I would go and I'd play random people, and you'd beat a lot of DB randoms. And then there's this guy that would just always click on my name, or if I saw his name, I'd click on his, and it was Beast Mode. And the first time I played against him, I got dog walked so fucking hard. It was not even close. It was
Beginner's
the
luck.
most
It was just luck.
humbling. It was the most humbling. Like, you're not in the same, even like, you're not allowed in the club. You're not allowed in the city. Like, it was bad. And I was like, oh God. And then for just weeks on end, anytime I would come across him, I would beat random people. I'm like, okay, I'll try this deck. And just every time it was flip summon goblins on me, normal summon diva, I lose. And I was like, what is going on here? And it kind of led me to, was either the second or the third RBET where you had a really good run. I was like, oh, So it's not just me. He's killing everybody.
Yeah, Enraged was like so close to crashing out. He was like, I'm going to start main decking side deck cards for this matchup.
You wouldn't be the first person, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think I just met Cole now, to be honest. So
Easy story there. Cole.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say the first time I like heard of you was just like I think you popped up in my YouTube recommended or someone's video of you doing well in the tournament. I was like, oh, went and checked out your channel, and I just liked your content. I was like, all right, subscribe, and
nice.
That's it.
Yeah, obviously, if you're watching this, listening to this, the link to Beast Mode's channel is in every one of my video descriptions. So make sure you follow those links and subscribe to him.
Thanks.
Of course, anytime.
We have a guy at my local. His name's Nathan. Shout out Nathan, and he has been playing zombies for a while now. And at first, he didn't find a deck that was like home. He was just kept trying different things, and he's like, I don't like this. And then he's like, well, let me try zombies. I'm like, well, if you want to learn anything about zombies, I got you. And then I literally linked him your channel, and he watched a lot of your videos, and he's still playing zombies. And the last Edison tournament we had like a 3-way tie for like second, but it then came down to tiebreakers. But I think he got third, like overall, like still playing zombies like to this day. So it's whatever content you do, it's not just, clickbait, hey, watch this. It's like actually good, like quality, like want to get better, like content too.
Yeah, some of my old stuff's pretty rough to hear, like getting set up and I don't know how to use computers, like the mic and everything else. I should probably redo some of those how-to videos, to be honest, but I appreciate that. You know what I mean? It's hard to think of new content, especially when you're kind of playing zombies all the time, but I try. I don't get to post as much as I used to just because of life and children, and not a whole lot changes in Edison format as well. I guess it does change pretty frequently, but I got to stay on top of it more, I suppose. But
it's also the classic, if it's not broke, don't fix it,
Sure. Yeah, sure. That's kind of the thing too, right? People like zombie content, we'll make zombie content.
I don't even play zombies, and I would find my way over to your channel watching your zombie stuff, because like for some reason, whenever I would play Lightsworn, I would just have such a hard time beating zombies. So I was like, I need some information on how to like take this deck down.
Yeah, well, people have learned. It has gotten a little bit more difficult to win over the past probably year and a half or so, but
yeah.
But there for a while, if there was an online tournament and Beast Mode entered, it wasn't a top 8, it was a top 7 or a top 15. Like it was, you'd see his name in the top standings.
Yeah.
Well, again, I get lucky a lot, so.
Hey, it definitely, it's part of the game for sure.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So that brings us around to how did you get into Edison?
Okay, so a friend of mine, I should say family, cousin, I won't get into the whole logistics, I'll say cousin. Many of you guys might know him. D2 online is his Discord handle there, and he was telling me about Edison format and blah blah blah, and I was always like an old goat head, like no way, goat's just the best, always the best, even though I was at that time I never even played online. You guys can still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, good. My computer like messed up, but anyway, I never really played online at the time, but I always would stand my ground saying just goat's the best, and just kind of not even being open-minded. But he was like, you really got to play this, you got to really play this. So I did know a lot of the cards. He was like, there's a big online tournament coming up next week, literally a week before RBET 2 or season 1. So I was like, okay, what won the tournament then? He was like, Quick Draw did, but that deck's really not good right now. I was like, well, I'm just gonna play Quick Draw. So I went on YouTube and like found a video. It was an Italian player. I don't remember his name, but he had like won his locals undefeated with his Quick Draw list. And I was like, look, I don't know how to build a deck right now. I don't even know the format. Let's just copy the list and play. So I played RBE2. I can't talk. RBET 2 with a week of playing online, and played Quick Draw on top 8 of that event just because it was like old school, fundamental Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was kind of hooked from that point on. I was like, wow, I like pick up right where I started off like 15 years ago, topping, tournaments again. So that's how I got back into it. It's actually D2 who got me into Edison, and I kind of just kept playing since then. In terms of getting into zombies, what happened was after topping that tournament, because at the time there was only the first RBET and the second RBET, people who had topped those 2 tournaments, like there's only 16 players essentially, so it's pretty easy to figure out who they were. And on like Peacock said, that before people would just host matches on Dueling Book. So if you had noticed the name, you could watch a lot of those players, matches. And my buddy JG at the time was, spectating a lot of my matches because I had topped the recent tournament, and we started DMing and on Discord and became good friends. And he said to me, you should play Zombies. Like, it's a lot similar to Quick Draw in terms of playing control and whatnot, and it's more explosive and fun. So he sent me his list, and he just said, play this deck and just learn along the way, which is kind of what I did. And I played, I don't think I might have played an RBT3. I played like a Quick Draw variant. I don't know if I did or not, I don't remember. But I played RBT4 with Zombies, and I did not know how to play the deck. I literally picked it up and I topped that tournament, and that's how I've been hooked on Zombies ever since. And then I played RBT5, topped that tournament. I played Rulers, topped that tournament, and we will continue on down the road. But Zombies have been the mainstay since then because nobody really had the success at the time with the deck, and I kind of naturally gravitated towards it because it reminded me of the old school control +1 -1 style that I like to play. You can really grind with the deck, and so that's why I've been playing it
Okay,
ever since.
great. I love that story. Very cool.
It made a lot of sense too because Zombies weren't like deemed to be like good at that time too, because the list prior to this, I think Mizuki was at 3 and it went to 1, and then Diva still unlimited. It was a couple of the cards in the deck like got hit in like the actual like 2009 or like going into 2010. So a lot of people at the time didn't think it was good, and even at the beginning of Edison, people didn't think it was good. And if I remember right, Keegan even like hosted like a tournament for like Halloween saying the top placing zombie player will get like an invite to something. And I know that was one of the things that kind of also sparked people wanting to play it, but then there's no one that came close to the amount of like success I think you've had with it overall.
Well, so I did not make the deck, and JG didn't actually create the deck either. It was actually Jikes who won that tournament, who won that Pumpkin tournament, and his deck was kind of the one that we took the foundation because he stopped playing. And let me tell you something, you want to see a phenomenal zombie player, like he's out of his mind. If you watch his tournament run, if you can find it online, unbelievable player. He was ahead of his time in terms of making like Plague, Chainlink 2, Return Chainlink. Like he was doing crazy plays that people still don't do today. But so shout out to him. Without him, the Zombies probably would have been a ways away before even being a thing. But so I did not create the deck at all. I just kind of play the deck and have had a lot of success with the deck. So
right, he walked so like you guys could run basically.
Yep, that's exactly it.
What do you feel like is your second favorite deck of the format?
So honestly, like my favorite deck of the format is still Quick Draw. Even though the deck's like not like I love Zombies, obviously the deck. But in terms of like, I just think Quick Draw is the face of Edison. Like when you think of Edison format, you think of Quick Draw.
Yeah.
And I like the style of the deck. Like that deck is literally just the way I like to play Yu-Gi-Oh. The problem is Edison format is just not what it was even 2-3 years ago when I first started playing, when I was able to top a Quick Draw. Like it's so hard to do now. I'm not saying you can't do it. I probably could do it if I, it would take me a few tournaments, but the deck is just inferior to others right now, and but it's probably my favorite deck.
It's so cool, man. Like Drill Warrior is such a cool card.
I would say I like Quick Draw. I like the Quick Draw deck. I don't like Quick Draw Synchron. I like everything else besides that specific card. And I think my favorite thing I've seen recent, like I say recent, it's probably been like over a year now, but the newest edition I saw was where they were adding Call the Haunted, because you can go Debris Dragon into Raikou to Iron Chain, call the Debris Dragon, make Trident Dragon, and then pop 2 and attack for 9k. So like that's pretty cool. But
it's got some cool plays. It's just slow.
Yeah.
I like how it's just like a good card deck. Like it's not super archetype centric.
And it's not like overly complicated to play. Like so the way I like to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and the way I still like to play Yu-Gi-Oh, even though it's way more difficult now because the speed of the format and the way people play, so and again I'm sure we can get to this question at some point, but the speed of the format and the aggression of the format is just so much higher than it was even a few years ago that it's hard to sit there and play a grind game now. Like when I played RBT2, I would have +6 on people. It was so bad. Like I was just blowing people out with advantage, and like it's hard to play like that. It really is now. It's just too hard.
Yeah, it is crazy that the format continues to just speed up even more. I kind of thought we'd hit the ceiling around like December of last year, and then we have like the Forgs deck and then the Gigavice deck that just came in and just made everything even faster. So it's really crazy how it just continues to evolve and become faster.
Yeah, when I was playing Diva Hero at Nats, I thought Diva Hero was unfair, and then you see the Fishborg and Gigaplant and stuff. I'm like, oh dear God, I'm glad neither of those existed because just leaving a Caius up is very likely like you might just die now.
That's true.
Diva Hero is only unfair when it has broken hands, but it's fair because it's inconsistent. Those other decks just do crazy stuff and they're not inconsistent. That's the problem with them.
Yeah, hyper optimized. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So that was my question. Rach, do you want to go ahead with your second one?
Let's see.
You got a whole list here, so.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of looking over it. We kind of like loosely touched on a couple of them.
Yeah.
We were kind of going over like your thoughts of the current state of Edison. So if you were to like, let's say if you were going to compete in something like tomorrow, what do you think you would probably bring like with the current state of the game?
Yeah, so this is a daily struggle for me because I kind of feel like, especially the build of zombies that myself and JG play now, the offering build, it's just not in a place where it can capitalize right now. I think it's probably too slow. It still does some crazy stuff if you can pull it off, but I think that
it seems like in the side deck.
What was that?
It catches strays in the side deck, like people who are siding like Crow or other things. Like you'll just kind of inadvertently get hit with things that are already residing in the extra deck, like deck dev and things of that nature.
Well, yeah. So zombies already have an inherent problem based on side decking, right? So that's kind of the problem where, you top a lot of these tournaments with this deck, but you're not able to really win them because when you hit top 8, you're playing against much better players at least as good as you, if not better. Number one. Number two, the decks that they're playing are just better. They're higher. Like this deck's tier 1.5, maybe 2, depending on who you talk to. And then you have decks like Black Wings and Frogs and Forgs and whatever we would call these things nowadays. They're all tier 1 decks, so you're already at a disadvantage in terms of card quality. And then on top of it, side decking just blows you out of the water. So you make it into the top 8 of these tournaments, but to win, you need just about every single thing to go your way. And you need people to like brick. So you're asking like way too many things to happen. So signing up for a tournament when you play a deck like this, you're saying that you're not going to win this event, and you have to be okay with that. So and at this point, like being able to outplay somebody is hard to do because of how aggressive the format is. Like I said, it's hard to get a +3 on somebody now when they just like close their eyes, slam Blackwing, Shurabora, Gale, and they just have total disregard for back row. Like people just don't care about. They're like, they put you on better have it. And so we're kind of at a point where I feel like zombies is just not ideal for anyone to really play, and unless you're going to play something that's a little bit faster, like maybe the hero version, which I've always said is probably the most explosive version, and then the instant fusion version can do some cool stuff where you don't really need your opponent at all to play. You can kind of just do your own thing. So I guess I'd consider playing one of those two builds, but really, if you want to win, you have to make a decision when you sign up that day. Like, are you trying to play just to play, or do you want to win the event? And if you want to win the event, you got to stick with one of those tier 1 decks, whatever they are. You can list them off. I'm sure there's 3, 4, or 5 different decks you can pick. So if I was to play tomorrow, to answer your question, I'd probably, like right now, I'd probably just pick up zombies because I'm not practicing enough with anything else, or Black Wings maybe because I don't feel like I need to have that much practice with that deck, but that's probably what I play.
That makes sense too, because with the way Edison format is now versus like whatever you were first seeing success, like when we first were getting into it, like way back, there's just the format's almost suffering from success, I would say, where there's so much just knowledge now and so many more eyes on the format. It's able to get things so much more, optimized versus you have 2 or 3, like at the beginning, you had the guy who created the zombies deck, and then you had you and a couple other good people working on it. And then now, whenever someone tops, they'll see that list, and then you'll have 50, 100, 200 people looking at it, all trying to optimize a strategy. Like just the sheer growth of the format has caused things to not only speed up, but just become more optimized by just knowledge of awareness of it being a thing and people wanting to like take advantage of it. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, people want to win, so they play what wins, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Cole, go ahead. You have another one. All right, great.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, good question. I don't know if he disconnected or we'll yeah, we can hear you now. Were you taking a nap?
Okay. I wonder why I disconnected. Yeah, it was good. No, but I was just gonna ask you what towards the ultimate offering build of zombies, because you're kind of like the ultimate offering zombie guy at this point.
Yeah, so I did not actually create the offering build. I was actually James Ark, who was playing in one of our BCS tournaments, was one of the tournaments that we were hosting back in the server, the Beast Mode server, a couple years back. We really haven't had time to host them. I still like to play, have one here or there if I'm able to, but so that actually came up in that event, which was kind of cool to see a deck like that. And
Right.
I think he was working on it in the side with his with Lediub, who also ended up topping like the next RBET with it. And I was like, you know what, this like makes perfect sense. Like it's Diva Zombies, which was a deck that I had topped a few times in the past, and I was noticing, and JG and I were talking about it, like this deck is getting blown out by frogs right now. Like you don't even really have a chance because it's too slow. It requires recruiters to be sent to the graveyard, requires goblins, like it just requires too much setup, and they just interrupt that. And then once we saw the offering, we're like, well, and I'll be honest, I was hesitant to even start using it, but I realized that it was an answer to some of the speed of the format. Granted, at the time, instant fusion wasn't really a thing, and then when that came out, I said, okay, well, this kind of makes more sense in terms of speed, but I just like the tricks that offering does. Like if you can play ultimate offering correctly and utilize like all of the little intricacies with it, it is an unfair card, completely
It
unfair.
is absurd, is what it is. I remember the first time I
100%.
actually watched it was you were playing against Echo at Nats, just like a friendly game, and it was like game 2 or 3, and then the offering resolved, and then I don't know how long your turn took, but it looked like a modern deck. Like it was so cool to see all these different things in the way you were just layering stuff, and then I was like, oh my god, like just literally a goblin zombie plus a tuner means like you don't get another turn, but this turn's gonna go forever because you can just do so many cool things with it.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you need if you have offering is like Sangin in Diva or Goblin Diva. And like if you play Illblood, it even gets like way more foolish in terms of the lines. But that's like only half of it. The real thing is like making things miss timing,
Mm-hmm.
which is like crazy because like you can dodge Bottomless, you can dodge Torrential with it. Like the card is extremely complex. And I'll be honest with you, I still don't even like notice or because the problem is like to play the deck. First of all, playing zombies, and I always say that I don't just say this because I play the deck, but the deck is generally difficult because there's always options,
Yeah.
and there's really not a clear option as to what is right until you make the play and like, oh well, that wasn't right. You know what I mean? But it's difficult to play generally, and now you add a card that's completely complex that like the rulings took literally I think BK Kids Club made a 25-minute video of like the rulings of the card and little intricacies you can do with it, so check
Yeah.
out that video if you want to learn offering. So then you got to try to figure this out in the middle of a turn, so it takes a little bit of time, and it's a deck that you have to be well practiced. Like I just played in a tournament over the weekend. I think I went like 1-2. I didn't even bother finishing it, and I hadn't played for like 2 or 3 months before it. And you could just feel it. Like if you don't play the deck consistently, it's difficult to just pick up and play. It's just not a deck you can do that with. But that's why I like offering. I just feel like it's such a broken card. It still feels like the old Diva build without getting into the whole instant fusion and hero stuff. And again, I'm willing to try some of those other lists, but right now I'm still trying to figure out a build of offering that will work.
I was watching a guy at YCS Orlando a little over a month ago now play offering zombies against this guy. And the guy is playing against, he just kind of looks like old school Yu-Gi-Oh player, right? Like he has like the 94 gray spellground. He's got the hoodie on, the calculator case, and the zombie player just keeps on like ultimate offering, Chainlink 47 ultimate offering. And the guy just keeps trying to like torrential bottomless. And the guy's like, you can't do that. So he tries to activate another one. He's like, you can't do that either. It's like, why can I not do that? And I'm just like, man, I'm so glad that is not me. Like, out of everyone here, I do not want to play against any deck with ultimate offering in it.
Well, I'll tell you, at Nationals, I went at Texas there. I think I finished 7-2, which was that Nationals was a disaster to begin with, just because of the way they didn't do top cut and everything. But that's besides the point. And I'll tell you, like I would flip over offering, and like people would not have any idea how to respond. They would let it resolve. I'd go to like main phase. I would start paying for it. They would MST. I would chain a million times. Like people in general just don't understand how the card works, which you're taking advantage of people not knowing the knowledge of the game, right? It's not your fault that they don't know when to MST, right? It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like you're cheating anybody. It's just like, hey, like this card doesn't come up a lot, and there's a lot of intricacies with it. So, you can utilize that to your advantage in a tournament run.
Yeah.
Well, it breaks the fundamental rules of the game. Like you're allowed one normal summon per turn. It's like, well, actually, you're allowed as many as you want, and you can chain these together to chain block, which is like just a whole different level of complexity.
The thing that gets
It
me
gets
the
really
most
bad.
about that card is forgetting that they can use it during my battle phase.
Yeah, that's that does it feels really good when you do that. And honestly, like a lot of the time you don't really do it because unless it's like a Caius or sometimes you set a Pyramid Turtle or a Recruiter and they don't usually attack them, they kind of just stop. But that also like is a means of protection.
Exactly.
They think they come in the game, you just set something. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, card's absolutely crazy. Yeah, I've always wanted to play around with offering zombies a little bit. I just haven't had the time to like sit around and learn all the stuff with Ultimate Offering, but someday. Plus,
I've mentioned it
like,
a few times.
plus Ill Blood
Oh,
is
go
really
ahead.
cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Illblood's fun.
I'm sorry. Go
Illblood
ahead and
is
rage.
Illblood's one of my favorite looking cards, but I've said it on the podcast a couple of times, but I still remember so vividly my first round at Nats. I played against a guy playing zombies, and I felt so bad because game 3, he goes first and he goes set turtle, pass. And I go Prodigy, Caius, banish your turtle, attack 24. He goes set a monster. I go tribute Caius for Caius, banish your tomato, attack 34. And he goes, okay, Zombie Master, teleport, make Goyo, take your Caius, pass. I go, bring your Goyo, tribute for my third Caius, attack for game.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
god.
man.
What the
That's
heck?
kind of like how the Monarch match goes. That's why like it's just so hard. The Frog matchup
think
for a while
Hero,
was really hard.
It was just Diva Hero, and I got really lucky and drew 3 Caius, and he had no back row. Like,
Yeah, now try to play into a dupe lock when they're swap bouncing their Caius back 35 times. Like you just can't do it.
Exactly.
It's brutal.
Mm.
It's brutal.
Yeah, I never even really thought about that. That is tough. All right. I do have a question here that I always ask everybody. What is your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card?
I would honestly, I would probably just use Injection Fairy Lily. I picked that. That's my
That's a good one.
profile.
That one's so
Yeah, I
classic.
like that card. I like that card.
Do
it
you
was so iconic when it came out too. I remember being a little kid and it was a secret rare, and I was like, that was impossible to get. It was so rare. And then whenever I saw someone actually summon it and use it, I was like, oh my goodness, it can attack over a Blue Eyes. Like it is so
Yeah.
powerful.
It was definitely different for its time for sure.
I remember seeing people play like level limit area B gravity bind with Injection Fairy Lily. I'm like, man, that is so broken. Just every turn
would say,
attack
like,
34.
My favorite card in the zombie deck is definitely Spirit Reaper, though. If I get to rip one card out of your hand, I'm winning the game. There's just no way I'm losing that game. If I get one direct attack, like you should stop that, whatever you got to do, because it's that +1 feels so good.
I've played against.
Oh, go ahead.
I've played against zombies before. I think the most recent time I played against zombies, and they went Zombie Master back Reaper, and then Book of Life back Reaper on the Nightmare that they had summoned earlier off of Instant Fusion,
yeah.
and that was tough. I was like, man, now there's 2 of them. Why are there 2 of them?
That's the deadly combo with that deck. That's why that deck is so strong, especially into frogs. Like you just get to rip so many cards.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, I don't play it as much as I should. I do test it here or there, but that's a broken combo.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was really cool. I was really happy to finally see decks take advantage of Instant Fusion because I'd felt like it was pretty underutilized, but I never really thought about using it with Reaper on the Nightmare in the zombie deck. Like I had seen people use it with like Black Garden and stuff like that. So I always thought that was really cool.
What I was going to say was
the right direction.
Involved in the Reaper. So I still dabble in GOAT format, and my most recent local. So we always do GOAT, we always do Edison once a month, and we usually have like a third random different format local. But my last GOAT tournament I played in, I was playing a deck that I called Bounce Man. It's a One Piece reference, if you know. So there's that. But what the deck would do was it's kind of like Chaos Turbo, but it played multiple Reaper, and then it played Wing Blasts instead of Regeki Breaks, and I played Compulse, and then I played Back to Square One, which is a normal spell, discard a card, and then bounce a monster from the field, spin it like a main phase 1 Wing Blast kind of thing. So you would spin them and put them behind, then you would Reaper and take a card out of their hand, and it was so just devastating, like how quickly you can get like advantage, not just from like the hand, but like the tempo of them setting up like a spy and setting a back row, and you go like dust the back row and then Wing Blast your monster, summon Reaper, attack. Now they're set behind a turn, and they're drawing a set monster, and I went undefeated at the tournament with it. And Reaper is one of my favorite cards of all time too, so that's why I wanted to mention that little caveat story. But it's a lot of fun. I like Reaper.
Love it. One of my favorite cards. That and Injection Fairy Lily. That's a throwback.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones. I like those a lot. Yeah, both level 3. Okay.
That's it. Yeah, sure.
All right. Cole, do you have another question?
Uh, kind of. I was going to say, do you think for zombies, I know you mentioned they might be somewhere between like 1.5 to 2, and they can be kind of hard to keep up with decks like Fords and Gigavies. Do you think there could be some room for innovation in like a supervised Illblood kind of deck?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because JG and myself have been after we saw the Gigaplant deck, obviously that sparks interest into other things, and we have been loosely talking and or got a rough skeleton, but I'll be honest, it's not nearly as good so far. It doesn't feel as good as the Gigavice, just because Lone Fire is just such a strong card. It's
Yeah.
instantly what you
Yeah.
need. Whereas Illblood, like you have to kind of play around. You got to send it to the graveyard, then you got to try to book a life or Mizuki it back. Like it's just too much. Feels like too much roundabout to try to get to where you need to go. It's possible, you know what I mean? I think there's a way that would work. I'm sure. Look, I'm not the world's best deck builder at all. I literally will take a core and add a few tech options. Like last year, I topped a few tournaments with Scrap Eye and Scarecrow. I like that card a lot. And I'm more of like add a few pieces of tech that I like, maybe work on a side deck, and that's kind of how I roll. I don't try to reinvent the wheel. That's not me. There are far better people at making decks. I like to give them the credit they need, and if I use their deck, I shout them out. So I leave innovation to others, but we do try to test, and my little squad that I have definitely is bouncing ideas. We're kind of working through the offering build right now to see if we can change a few cards here or there to maybe gain some speed. But Illblood has definitely been, if there's something that's going to break zombies, it's probably around Illblood. It's just a matter of figuring out a way, and without it just being a brick most of the time, which it essentially is. So that's all I would have to say about that.
I never
Have you
even
ever
really
messed-
thought about that, honestly, that supervised would work with Illblood. That's pretty cool.
Have you ever messed around with the Spirit of the Pharaoh card?
Spirit of the Pharaoh card.
He's
Is
like
that
he's like a level 3 zombie guy that like comes back if
Oh,
you
Beast of the Pharaoh.
Beast of the Pharaoh.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
He's like,
So
you look at it and you're like, this seems
You
broken,
you
but
said
I have no idea.
you said Spirit of the Pharaoh. I was like, stop. The kitchen is burned down. We're not playing the first, second,
No,
third
no.
sarcophagus enraged.
Beast
Too
of the Pharaoh,
far.
my bad.
yeah, I have not personally tested with it. I've seen some, on the zombie section of the Edison format, their channel. I've seen some brews. I don't typically like get into anything or really try to test anything unless it's like done something, because
Right.
I have limited time, so I don't want to spend two hours that I get during the week to play testing a deck that's like got nothing going for it. But if there's something that has some success, like one of locals here and whatever 20%, like I think that's a good place to start. Now maybe I'm just closed minded and could be missing out, and that's probably true. But no, I can't say I've tested anything like that. We have looked into some Des Lacuda with the offering, which is kind of fun because during the battle phase you can actually, like, your opponent attacks with a monster, you can say sure and then take the damage, and then before battle phase ends, like, set Lacuda.
Yeah, then
That's
draw.
an option. So I've
Yeah.
tested a little bit of that, but other than that, no.
Okay. If you could ban or unban one card in Edison, what would it be and why?
So if I could ban one card in Edison, it would probably be so if I was biased, I'd say Royal Oppression because that card kills zombies, but I think it's actually good for the format just to keep some things in check.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I would probably say like Deck Devi. I think that card's just utterly stupid. It doesn't let you play the game.
Yeah, I agree. That card is way too oppressive to be at 3.
Like if it just destroyed the cards and didn't look at their hand, I would say like maybe, but the fact that you get the hand knowledge is just utterly stupid, and then the fact that it checks every draw for whatever 2 or 3 turns is beyond foolish, and it just really shuts down a lot of decks that could be better, like fairies. Like I would consider playing that deck, but you just don't have a chance. Even zombies, like you just get blown out by one DDV, and that card has ended so many of my tournament runs. It's not even funny. Like
Yeah.
I don't know where I would be if I didn't get deck devied. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, deck Devi, man. Even like if your deck isn't like that affected by it, right? Like I've been trying to build Christia Sworn a little bit better in mind of DDV, and I played at locals a few weeks ago, and I just happened to have the 5 targets for DDV in my hand at the worst possible time for DDV, and it just, yeah, the card is just way too powerful for the Edison card pool. So I definitely agree with that. I think that's very good to just get that card out of here.
It's crazy how it's limited in GOAT, and then they're like, "No, never mind. Go ahead and bump it back up to 3."
You know what other card I was talking about the other night too? It's like if you actually read Swap Frog, like that card
It's
reads like a mod. It has 4 effects.
It does.
Like,
Yeah, it does.
What were we doing who decided, like when they were sitting there designing that card? They were like, we're gonna have effect number 1 where we special summon and also send a card back to your hand, and we'll send one from the deck. Like we just kept going on and on with that card. And again, I don't think it's like utterly broken, but I just think about it like when you compare that to other cards of the time, it's really foolish. 4 effects. It's kind of crazy.
I remember
I don't
the
think it needs
first
to be
time.
banned, but
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw someone use Swap Frog to bounce their Caius. I went and immediately read Swap Frog. I was like, wait, what do you mean it doesn't bounce itself? Because I was always under the impression it just bounced itself because that's what most people did. And yeah, I was floored by that very early into Edison format, thankfully. But yeah, card's crazy.
And don't forget, you get an extra frog normal summon on top of it.
Yeah.
And you can special summon it.
That's
It's like,
that's
come
true.
on. That's
true.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Just like a modern card.
Not ban worthy, but it's like a modern card when you look at that.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
biased. I've always liked frogs. I played so historically I actually played frogs longer than I played any other like modern deck. I got 33rd at YCS Dallas when Six Samurai was like the deck. Whenever I think all top 4 was Six Samurai, Dallas 2011, and I was playing Frog Monarch, and the reason why I was playing it was because if they went like Shein set 4, like you could just pass and they would go attack and you could drop Trigodia. And then I was playing Zaborg, so I could discard Zaborg to take their Shein with Trigodia, and then you could do crazy things with Swap Frog. And I was like, there's something to this. Like I was playing Frog FTK the format before that, and then whenever Ronin or Substo got banned, I'm like Swap Frog, discard Ronin, special, make Lad turn 1 versus Samurai. Like you can't really do anything. Like it was pretty broken.
Most of those frogs, like I always say, if there's a deck that is literally going to be the best deck of all time when Edison comes to its final, place, wherever that is, whenever that is, it's probably going to be frogs because they have the look at Substitute, another one too. Like that card is dumb, like stupid. Then you have Swap Frog. Like there is going to be the FTK. It's going to be frogs. It's definitely going to be that deck. It's just we might be getting there with what they can do, but there's definitely going to be the ultimate broken deck. It's probably going to be frogs in my opinion. But when would that be? I don't know. We're probably getting close. Every few months it seems to be a new frog version that's even more crazy than the last one. So
yeah, I had this crazy epiphany last night because I didn't realize that Mind Master was at 1 in Edison. Because like I mentioned at the start of this, Cole is doing his own series on the channel where he's like brewing with psychics. So I was watching his video and I was like, why is there 1 Mind Master? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's at 1. And I start like researching and find out that it's been at 1 since the card came out like a month after. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. It's pretty broken. And then it was like silence and I was like, wait, how the fuck did Substitute get off so easy? That card stayed at 3 for forever. Like,
it's crazy.
What were they thinking? Like, you don't even have to pay life for Substitute.
Yeah,
it's insane how some cards kind of slip through, and then again, Edison format is pretty fun no matter what. But like you said, one card, I don't even know of a card I'd want to bring back. To be honest with you, I never really thought of that.
I would trade Substitute for Rototonin. That'd be a fair trade.
Rototonin. That's the one that you remove a frog to bring it back, right?
I'd banish a frog, special summon it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine because you wouldn't be able to dump 37 of your frogs in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Get rid of back to Ronin, I think would be fun and more
Yeah, I
fair.
think that's fine.
I'd always said if I could just
like Cyberjar.
Cyberjar's cool. Yeah, that one's really cool. I'd be curious to see what it would do.
Or Fiberjar. Fiberjar was pretty cool too. It had a stupid mechanic where you could reset the game. I kind of like that. I don't know. I don't know how good it would be today, but Fiberjar was kind of
It is relevant that you could maybe something in the Gigavice deck could play Fiberjar because it is a plant monster.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, randomly it's a plant. Yeah.
Huh. I see all kinds of alarm bells going off because the guy who got 3rd at one of the YCSs with Paul Empty Jar Cooper, he's from Kansas City, which is a few hours from me. And then my good friend Billy, shout out Billy, actually made the deck with him. And he's Wig Splitter in most of the Discord. If you guys have seen him, he's really cool, one of the good homies. But he was the degenerate Empty Jar guy who played it through multiple formats. So as soon as I hear Cyberjar or Fiberjar and more jar stuff, I'm like, no, that just
there's always going to be something toxic. You know that. Someone is always going to lab up something that just is, completely annoying and solitaire mode. There's always going to be something like that.
I think it's crazy
Yeah.
that we're at a point in Edison format where there's like actual some reasons to justify playing Morphing Jar number 2 because of the Gigavice deck.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I did side that recently just because I watched Sackphase Sizzle the video there. Shout out to TMX and Sackphase. But
Yeah, shout outs
I
to
was like,
Eric.
I have no idea what this Gigaplant does. So let me just side Morphing Jar number 2 and call it a day.
I was like kind of going off and like panic buying some things because like ultimately at the end of the day, like I play Christius Warren, so like it's either I have Herald or I don't, like, and that's probably the game if I Herald your Lone Fire. But I was thinking about like Swords of Concealing Light, and then his video came out with Morphing Jar number 2, and I just immediately went and bought two QCRs, and they were still like $1.50, and now they're like $4. So
Look at that.
shouts to
Fuck, right
Sackface.
there. He's the best.
He is, man. I love that guy.
I thought of another question that kind of goes along with what we're talking about. Have you seen the rock deck that I've kind of just made as a meme, but it's not really like I didn't make it, but I play as a meme, but it's actually like kind of solid. Have you looked at it at all, Beast Mode? The Dark Gaia rock deck.
The Dark Gaia rock deck, is that the one with like the fossil dinas and the
Yeah, and Guardian and Gaia and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it.
I was saying I don't know if you've ever seen or played against it, but I think right now with the decks being more hyper, like just focused on the like speed and aggression, and the thing I like about it a lot recently is not only does Guardian is an optional Doom count, so it makes them have to play awkwardly into it no matter what kind of thing they're playing, and then Dinah can just be a walking like you have to find a way to deal with this. But in the side deck for like frogs and stuff, you can side the Possessed Dark Soul, the level 3 Fiend, take all level 3 or lower monster on the field, so you can take their dupe block, but then you can follow that up by going Dark Calling, banish the Possessed Dark Soul because it's a Fiend and then a rock, and then now you have like a 3,000 attack guy plus their dupe block.
Yeah, that does seem. You might be onto something.
Enraged is always cooking.
He's always in the lab, labbing it up.
Always in the
All right.
kitchen.
Nothing compared to our boy Cole, though. Cole's got, I mean, my goodness, I did not know what most of those cards did, and then I was like, I need to research and read many cards.
I didn't either. So like when Cole sent me this video, I was watching it, and I just thought like some psychic combos would just be like just some like little cheesy like Android thought ruler. And I'm like watching this video, and there's like 15 counters on Brain Research Lab. Mindmaster has dumped like 14 psychics. He's still going. Then he plays Powerwell, and I'm like, I'm scared. I'm scared. Like,
I don't know half those cards. So.
Life into Ancient Sacred Wyvern was the craziest thing I have seen, and I don't know how long. I was like, this is not okay. I'm like, this might be a big problem, like really soon. And I was like, it's so scary, like what it can do, because you also have like what Beast Mode was saying, when people don't know how to play against something, I would have no fucking clue what any of these cards do, and I've looked at all of them before, and I'm like, I have no idea where to try to interrupt any of this.
I would just like close my eyes, orange light the Mind Master, and just pray. Like, pray nothing else happens. Pray you don't have Powerwell or something.
Yeah, they use that to your advantage. You know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read my polling book and just walk away.
Yeah.
Sorry, time out.
That's great.
So we are getting toward the hour mark, so we'll start winding down here. I do have one final question, and that is, do you have any other hobbies outside of Yu-Gi-Oh that you enjoy?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so I'm big into like football, fantasy football, but you know that's only some of the year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, big into that stuff. But I do take frequent breaks from Edison format just because I don't like to get burnt out. And if I'm not having a good time, I need to like step away and refresh. And I think that's good for everybody. I always kind of say that in videos, like if you're having a bad run of luck and you know just not doing well, like just take a break for 2 weeks. Like, and that break will usually like make you really like you'll know when you want to play again. Like you start getting that itch and then you get excited to get on and slam some cards. So I always say breaks are good. And when I'm taking breaks from Edison, which I was just on a pretty like 2-month break, I was playing some One Piece, which I like to, because of my local area, there's not a lot of Edison scenes really. It's only like we have an Edison monthly, that's about it, and even that's only about 20 players, but 20-30 players if we get real lucky. But the One Piece scene is really booming, and I'm not like a huge One Piece, like I never really watched the anime, but I did watch the live action, and the card game's super fun. I did post like a quick video about the deck I had been playing, and it's a really young game, so like Yu-Gi-Oh players I feel like have just natural advantage playing the game because of just like card interactions in general. And I, picked it up and I've been playing and having, great success, and not even about winning, but just playing the game. It's fun. And again, I've been playing that, grinding that for the last 2 or 3 months. And now I'm back on Edison, and I kind of just always recommend swapping through some hobbies if you have a couple and just keep things fresh. So yeah, playing a little bit of One Piece is kind of where I'm at now.
Okay. Excellent. Good answer. Enraged, do you have a final question?
I was like, this might shock you, but Beast Mode posted that video, and I may have commented on it. Like, no one would ever guess that. But I was like, I was so hyped for it. Cause I'm like, I've played the One Piece TCG. It's a lot of fun. Just financially, with it being a modern game and new sets coming out and having to constantly rebuy and keep up with it, being a single parent, I'm like, I can't do that. But if you notice on my avatar, there's a straw hat on my avatar because I drank One Piece Kool-Aid, and I'm on episode 793. I am working to get current before the break is over. I'm only 329 away, and I am so lost in the sauce. It is the greatest story ever told, and there's a reason why the only book to ever outsell it is the fucking Bible. Like, it is OD.
It's crazy.
And the card game's fun, too.
It is fun. The card game's fun. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm learning the characters, and like I said, I just like the mechanics, and I like just the break and being able to sit down and in person and play. And if there was more Edison scenes, I'd be really hardcore Edison. But again, I go through my bouts where I play for a few months, I take a break, and break for a month or two and come back. Like, I think that's just great overall, and it works for me. Maybe not for everybody, but that's my little bit of advice.
It's an extremely fair game too, because like you can map out your turns by how much dawn or like resource that you get, so you can kind of map out what your future turns will look like. And whenever I was playing Gecko Mori, which was literally zombies. Like, it was the zombie deck where you bring guys back from. I read the 8-cost Gecko Mori. I'm like, that is a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like, it's broken. 8-cost. Yeah. You bring back a 4 and a 2. I'm like, that is not okay. Like, that is
that card probably shouldn't have been made, but whatever.
Yeah, but it was still, even for that time, it was like, it was broken, but it wasn't like oppressively broken. Like, there's ways to play around it, to counter it, and like, it's a really fun game. And the pricing for that game, it's just
it's insane, bananas. Yeah, it's not a air fryer or a card that nobody cares enough to buy. The Edison pricing at the Ultimate Time
get out to the other people in the fucking Winnipods.
Yeah, playing that. Yeah.
Okay, Cole, do you have any final statements or questions you'd like to ask before we get out of here?
No.
Okay, all right, good enough. All right. All right, guys.
The last thing I would say is, I'm not asking a question, but just I always wanted to say, thanks and give props to it, because you are someone I've looked up to a long time in the space, not just for content creation, but just technical play. Like,
same here.
I made the joke earlier about when we first played and like how you just kept beating me, but like, you're the Goku to my Vegeta. I'm like, I cannot beat him. I got to keep training and keep grinding and keep doing better to where I could beat him. And you're part of the reason why I got on the competitive grind, was able to get to a point to be able to, top nationals. So I always want to say, thanks for being that, kind of person without even realizing it. But like, you were a catalyst, like a thing I was trying to, beat and get over. And I was like, man, if he can do it, like, I got to find a way to beat this guy, because if there's no reason I should be losing this hard. So just, thanks for all that you do, and like, just who you are as a person too, because you're great to meet in person too. Super awesome guy.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So my final thought was, like, I always try to say this too. Like, people sometimes feel like they just can't top, or that players are so much better. And like, again, I like to say that a lot, like, to top a tournament, you have to have a lot of luck, and obviously you got to be able to play. But it just, sometimes it's your day, and I post a lot of videos on my channel where I lose, I make mistakes. Like, I think that's really good to be transparent. And again, this is all my opinion. I don't win every game, every match, and I don't top every event I play in. And there are a lot of players who, quote unquote, are pro players. I would never consider myself that, but are, and they just don't post a lot of that stuff. So you see one side. But I think that anybody who wants to top a tournament can top a tournament. Like, we're all playing a card game that, anybody can do it. You just got to practice and play. And if you want to learn more stuff, watch videos, reach out to players. And again, I think that it's great. It's a small community. We should all be kind of helping each other. Same thing with YouTube channels. Always shout people out on stream or whatnot. Like, we're playing a children's card game. Most of us are grown adults with children, married, whatever. And again, like, anybody can top. Just play and play what you like.
Absolutely. That's a great way to send off this episode, honestly. All right, guys. Well, that's about all I have for you tonight. We do accept fan mail if you'd like to send us a letter to have it read on the show. The email is in the description of all of these videos and podcasts. It's the EdisonClubFanmail at gmail.com. So that's about all for the night, guys. Thank you guys for listening. This is Mike from the Edison Club, signing out until the next one.
Hamster Ryko Caius. I go check the pairings, I'm like, don't know who this guy is. Hamster Ryko Caius, Hamster Ryko Caius. 2-0 every round, man, and I ain't even trying. It's just Hamster Ryko Caius, Hamster Ryko Caius.